This is the CreaseCast.
Hello, children.
Welcome
to episode 142 of the CreaseCast. We were going to have really good news, a really positive vibe. Lachlan and Jacob, our producer, who's not here with us right now, they were going to record an off the post episode for our Patreon subscribers, and then the system crashed.
Yep,
and then
sure did. Right after we recorded 40 minutes of bonus podcast content, so that was fun.
And then we were going to talk about the Canucks game against the Kraken, and then Jonah Gadjovich got claimed by San Jose. And then before we could even settle the notes and just talk about the Kraken game and the Oilers game and Gadjovich, some code stuff broke out at the end of the Oilers game, in which, for whatever reason, Zach Cashin and Zach McEwen decided to drop the gloves at the end of a preseason game. Keep in mind, preseason game. Decided to drop the gloves because, for whatever reason, Zach McEwen got in the grill of Mike Smith, known spaz Mike Smith, and they needed to fight to settle the score. Both took off their helmets. Some punches were thrown, an even scrap, and then, like most fights do, they both fell to the ice, and Zach Cashin fell headfirst onto the ice. Fortunately, he got up under his own power with the assistance of the doctors and training staff and was escorted off of the ice. So was Zach McEwen, and kind of put a huge damper and tainted the entire outcome of the game.
It wasn't a great game to begin with, but man, did it end even worse. They just found a way to make it even worse.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I had the game on in the background, but I was busy setting up my new writer's laptop, one that was built in this century.
The one good thing the one good thing part of today was it. It was Cody getting a new laptop. That's the best news of the day.
You know what's funny is, like, so last night I got to sleep in because I had to drive Roxy to her other office, and in this dream where I was having this wonderful sleep, getting almost 7.5 hours, which I haven't done in maybe 10 years. I had a scary dream, also like a funny dream, but I had dreamt that you, Lachlan, were at the Abbotsford training camp, and you were tweeting out all these one-on-one interviews with like every single player, the coaching staff. It was so great. It was so like professional, and like you had like thousands of likes on every tweet. And I'm on my phone in bed, and I'm scrambling and panicking because I'm like, oh my god, I slept in. I forgot that today was the Abbotsford Canucks camp. And so I was like, I need to get to Abbotsford, and I don't have my laptop yet. I don't have my outfit. Everything's going wrong. And then I woke up and it was fine. But I was like, oh no, am I going to dream that I oversleep training camp every day? It's going to be so terrible.
For the next like 3 days, yeah.
Yeah, but then today, I got my laptop. I went to the mall and got myself my sports blazer and writer's outfit.
Oh, yeah, my god, I'm excited. I'm good. I'm excited to see pics. This is gonna be great.
I'm really excited for my outfit. It's the first outfit I've like bought since, like, I don't know, like 3 years ago or something. Like a really nice outfit.
You're treating yourself because you're going out there. You're stepping out for your big business meetings.
I needed some variety and options to the wardrobe. I can't show up to, like, you know, every like game day skate in the same thing, or else you'll be that guy. So I needed some options.
Oh yeah, you don't want to be me. You don't want to be me showing up in the same suit. I have different shirts. I have different shirts. I have
different shirts is okay.
I have different shirts. I have 3 ties, but basically it's the same jackets pants combo usually.
Yeah. See, I am in the same boat where I think I have 2 different sets of pants, but my big issue is I have a really nice like pea coat, and it goes with anything, but I don't have like a like a sports jacket. And those are really hard to get.
No, you got the suit. You got like the full suit. I'm sure. Obviously, you're married. You've done the whole wedding thing, so you have that probably on hand. But like,
I should show up in Roxy's wedding dress, I think.
Yes, that is the correct
That's
call,
how you
sir.
make an impression. And
You're making they will never forget you. You guarantee that.
I think I told you, I can't remember if we recorded this on the episode, but I was like, I'll start shaving my head like every time I go to like a practice or like a game day skate. So like chunks of my hair will just start like slowly migrating. And so that I'll just be remembered by the players and the coaching staff as like the guy who's going through like a serious crisis in his life.
Jesus.
But anyway,
God.
that's enough about my midlife crisis. I mean, hopefully not mid. I'm only 31,
No,
so
no, you got time.
let's hope it's not midlife
You
yet.
got at least a few good years left. You got to.
You got 35 or 40.
Yeah,
left
what,
at least.
2, 4, maybe?
Anyways, folks, first game that we're going to cover, because we'll get into the Gadjovich thing because I'll probably go on a couple tangents. So let's get into the nitty gritty, the game stuff first.
Yeah.
Canucks have lost, I think now 3 in a row, including tonight's loss to the Oilers. But the first game that happened since our last episode, which we recorded on Monday, the Canucks played against the Seattle Kraken, which was a very much an NHL roster. It was still the same kind of Canucks lineup where it was mostly guys competing for jobs. We saw Luke Shen again. We saw Ulevi again. Rathbone in every single preseason game. Like the Canucks are trying to get their money's worth out of him. They're desperate to see if he's going to be someone they can keep around on the NHL roster. Who else was in? Like Carson Vogt. Vasily Podkolzin was in it.
Justin Dowling played a lot. Justin Dowling
played
was very
well
good.
too.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you were there.
Unfortunately, I was there. Yes.
You were there. It was cheap though. It was, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But it was like one of the most boring games to watch. It was like pulling teeth.
It really was. I went down there to basically actually to do a school project. I was not intending to go actually into the game. I was down there to do like a project for one of my classes essentially, and it was like I was doing it based on what was going on outside the arena, particularly in terms of like the COVID protocols they had in place at the game and whatnot. Found a ticket literally right before puck drop for like $25. Quickly bought it, ran across the street to Costco for a hot dog, and then ran inside.
Nice.
And yeah, it was. I guess if I were a less professional hockey writer, I would say that game was done the minute Vince Dunn scored. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to say that.
Only a hack writer would tweet that out.
No, God, I did tweet "You done goofed." I was very proud of that one.
That's pretty good.
That was pretty good. It was very much pulling teeth. The game was. It was very much a case of like just the Canucks could not keep up. They had a couple good plays. Like they had a couple players who were making a big impact. The problem was most of the team just was not there. Like I was watching like Zach McEwen and Kyle Burrows and Sheldon Dries and all of these guys who I'm just like Carson Vogt. Well, actually Vogt looked okay. Like he was fine. He actually did okay. But like so many guys where I'm just like, oh man, they're not doing anything out there. They're just kind of treading water and hoping for the best. It was rough. It was rough to watch.
Yeah, I think I tweeted it because I've been clipping I've pretty much clipped every single preseason game except for tonight's against the Oilers, because I was like, it's a good way to build, like, get followers. People can then follow the AHL coverage that I provide on my own site, ahlnucksharvest.com. And so I was clipping that game, and at like at the very end, I was like, how did I get 44 clips out of this game? Because
I remember that
nothing really happened. There were some really good standout, like the little things that like you like to see in prospects and in players, but otherwise it was just like nothing was happening at all. Team's penalty kill just looks completely horrific, and it didn't get any better against the Oilers. Power play wasn't doing anything. Like the most exciting thing that came from that game was Vasily Podkolzin doing a deke on Mark Giordano and almost putting in a Forsberg goal on Chris Drieger or Grubauer.
Yeah, like, Grubauer.
That's
looked great. Like that, but Colson looked awesome in that game, and that play where he deked out Giordano, went right to the front of the net, and it just dribbled by the post. I for a crowd of 50% capacity, if even that, really, for a preseason game, that was loud. Like, it got loud in there for a second. It sounded like a full building for a second. Like, it was just hoping it would roll in. It came so close. You see the replay of it just dribbling. He looked so much better. Like, there's already been like the conversation about if he's going to end up, say, playing AHL games to get reaccustomed to North America, to get accustomed to North America. No, he's good. He doesn't need it. I don't think.
He does enough like little things, or at least in the last 2 games, he's done enough little things, and his two-way IQ is like really high end that you can kind of forgive like the lapses where he doesn't really seem certain of what to do next, because that certainty of what to do next isn't really there with anyone else competing for a forward spot right now. Like Will Lockwood, he plays like a wrecking ball, but you can tell he has like a lot of uncertainty of what to do with the puck, especially in the defensive zone. Justin Bailey, same thing. Zach McEwen, like for sure, certainly. Sheldon Dries, like the list goes on and on. Like the forward group, just like it's a lot of guys who aren't sure of what to do with their role or with the puck. But Podkolzin is going to gain more because even though he's got that uncertainty, he pretty much understands both sides of the ice. And for that reason alone, before I was definitely on team, like maybe he should just start in the AHL. But now that I've seen like what he's capable of when he's playing at his best, and it's not even his best, he will improve as the season goes on.
Yeah.
But in the sense that his ceiling is better served learning under the NHL against like the actual legit players than say in the AHL. Because these guys who aren't really certain in how to be handling the puck in certain situations, they can do that in the AHL better than they can do it in the NHL because their ceilings aren't nearly as high as, say, a Podkolzin. So, that was it for the upsides.
The thing that I explained that when I was talking about this recently, the way I put it was like what we always kind of forget sometimes when we're talking about, guys getting reaccustomed to like that faster pace of play, or at least sometimes maybe say fans and like, sometimes media too, is that we're not just talking about like quick feet and being able to win puck battles and stuff. We're talking about literally being able to like rewire your brain essentially to make decisions faster and make it even more, an even shorter, like split second, make the right decision, because that's how much less time you have against AHL or NHL players. And you're seeing Podkolzin get clearly much more comfortable with that timing and that decision making. Like it's still got like you said, it's still got a ways to go. He's still getting accustomed to it. But even just like there were certain plays where McEwen gave them a very quick puck, I believe, like in the first period against Seattle, on the short side. Not an easy place to get a shot off. Not an easy place to certainly not an easy place to score. And he got a shot off very quickly right into Grubauer. Like it goes right into Grubauer, right in the chest. Like it's clearly it wasn't going to go in, but like Grubauer bobbles it a little bit. It's one of those things where you can see though, like earlier in the preseason, I don't think he even takes that shot. He kind of maybe skates around the net. He either looks for the pass or he goes behind the net and tries to like center back up to the defense or something.
Yeah.
Soon you'll get to the point where that shot will come, that opportunity will come. And instead of just showing it right into the dead center, he's going to start picking corners or short side. And that's once you start to see that, he's starting to get a little bit better. It's over time. It's going to build up into the player that we want.
Yeah. He looked good tonight against the Oilers too. Like he really, when we say he looks good, we're not being like, oh man, he's scoring points.
He's elite.
Like, he's putting on dangles. Like
he's
relatively speaking, like he had a pretty like uninspiring game. But because he's like a 20-year-old kid, like having like an uninspiring game is okay because at least he's keeping up and doing some things in the third period. Like whatever, you'll take that. He's 20 years old, and if he has uninspiring games but does little things here and there, whatever. When it's like 26-year-old like Justin Bailey or Sheldon Dries, and they have uninspiring games, and then nothing happens, and they don't do little things either. You're kind of like, okay, I kind
Why?
of get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when there's a player who we'll get into pretty shortly here who was doing a lot of little things right in preseason, wasn't really given a leash, wasn't given a look, and is now no longer part of the organization. Just before we get into that segment, Lachlan, do we want to pour one out for our boy, our fellow or a listener of our program, longtime listener, not a first time caller, but longtime listener, Chris Faber? Can the Canucks do this guy a favor? I mean, he's been giving some of the best goddamn coverage of their prospects since he hopped on the scene some 3-4 years ago.
Very
and
true.
Every single guy that he gets tremendous interviews out of, where they are brutally honest and not the typical canned answers. Like, he gets so much out of these guys, and I swear to God, everyone he doesn't get canned answers out of gets traded or moved on from in the organization. Can they just give Chris Faber a break? He's
I'm
doing
Jack
so much
Rathbone. I
work.
am looking over my shoulder right now. I'm like, where's that trade to Chicago coming?
If I am Jack Rathbone or Aiden McDonough or Victor Persson, I am deleting Chris Faber and
You're
David
like, it's
Quadrelli
not
from my phone book.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you. It's just I really would like to play in Vancouver, and I think they don't want me to talk to you.
Yeah, there's like a whole there's like a board in Jim Benning's office that just has Faber's face on it, and they're just like there's like the strings like all pointing out to the different players.
It's the
like,
Charlie Day meme where he's like smoking and he's like, he's talking to these guys.
Yeah, they're just
But yeah, sorry, man. Sorry, Faber. That really sucks.
Tough
like,
for him. Yeah,
I will always look forward to the interviews you do complete with prospects that do remain part of the Canucks systems in the future. We're pouring one out for you, like an electronic pour one out for you, because that obviously sucks for you to build such a good relationship with these players and get some really great content out of them, and just see them given away in such a
for nothing
awful way. Like, all right, I guess let's just get into it. Like,
let's just get into it.
The Kraken game is gone. Gadjovich is gone. He's put on waivers alongside, well, not alongside, but Danila Klimovich was sent to the AHL at the same time that Jonah Gadjovich was put on waivers. A lot of eyebrows were raised in that Seattle Kraken game that you were in, Lachlan, because everyone was like, why isn't Gadjovich getting a look? Yep. And it was revealed at that time he is now being put on waivers. And so the writing was, I guess, kind of on the walls anyway. Like, I guess the team just really didn't see a place for him. They didn't want to bother seeing if he could work in the Chiasson spot. They didn't want to see if he would do better than Nick Petan. Like, they had their minds made up. A lot of people were worried. Like, Thomas Drance, I think, pointed this out in either the Vancast or one of his athletic pieces, where he was like, Axel Jonsson Fjällby of the Washington Capitals got claimed by Buffalo, and Jonsson Fjällby has terrible AHL numbers. Like, relative to Gadjovich, they're awful. So that right there said there's a reason to believe that Gadjovich will get claimed if he's put on waivers. And sure enough, he's reunited with former Canucks property Jonathan Dahlen, your boy.
Yeah, my one of like two boys I have talked to in the Canuck organization in the last however many years it's been. God, I've been at this for too long. He's going to San Jose. He's going to get a lot of he's going to get at least some good opportunities, probably on the NHL team, because they're not good. I will say, I don't know if you saw moneypuck.net. I want to say .net. They do like the playoff wheel or something. Maybe I'll pull it up in the meantime. They did like the playoff odds of like it, and then like every like tier it goes down, like win the first round, win the second round, win third, a cup to the cup,
win
right?
The cup.
They had the Sharks with a higher percentage than the Canucks, and I was like, I don't know where. Like, I know the Canucks aren't great, but I do not trust your math on that. I would check that again, because the Sharks are not good. They're not a good team right now.
They're really not good. I mean, maybe the money puck thing is bouncing on like a bounce back from like Erik Karlsson and Brent Burns and Vlasic maybe, and
Well,
maybe
Hughes and
without Martin
Pettersson,
Jones.
They have they don't really have any goaltending. They have who I don't even know. It's James
Aiden.
Reimer and Aiden Hill, I think, is their
Yeah.
goaltending tandem. Like they are not a strong team right now.
No, and like good. I mean, first things first. Good things.
There's already talk that Hurdle wants out.
Yeah, I mean, he's their only trade bait they really have, and I guess
Him
now
and
Jonah
Timo
Gadjovich.
Meyer. Yeah, that's it. That's all they got. That's really it.
But it's good thing. Like, kudos to Jonah Gadjovich. Obviously, a team valued him enough to be like, yeah, we want to try him out on our NHL roster, because that's the only reason you're claiming guys is you think they have a space on your NHL roster for opening night. So he's going to get a look. He's going to get greater opportunity with them than an organization who's, I guess, kind of they gave up on him. Really,
yeah, I guess.
Oh, that reading people being like, oh, you don't need guys like Gadjovich because they signed a bunch of depth pieces. Like, do you understand how like roster construction works? Like,
and asset management,
recouping assets, long-term planning.
Yeah.
Do you not understand that?
Yeah, that was the thing that boggled my mind, and I talked about this on Locked On earlier today, was the idea that it's not necessarily even about the player, because it's like a lot of people were like, Gadjovich wasn't going to move the needle. It wasn't going to make a huge difference whether he was on this team in the lineup or not. So is it really that big a deal? Probably not. Yeah, sure. In the roster side of things, it didn't make that much of a difference. The problem is that this was a guy who apparently multiple teams put a claim on, according to Drancer. Multiple teams put a claim in for Gadjovich, which means that there was value for him. Like there was clear trade value for him in theory. You could have flipped him
for like they need a right shot defenseman. Maybe there's something out there.
Hell, you could move him for a 7th rounder for all I care. It could be nothing. It could be basically nothing, but it's better than what they did here, where instead of again, and I feel like I've been singling out Zach McEwen a lot here lately, because he's kind of a guy who has been very underwhelming in the preseason. He has not really, there is no reason for him to be on this team. Like the big thing that was talked about with Gadjovich is he doesn't kill penalties. They don't have a need for him because he doesn't kill penalties. Neither does McEwen. McEwen doesn't kill penalties either, and he did less, and he's done less for the Canucks in the last couple of weeks than Gadjovich has. So why on earth would they drop? Why on earth wouldn't they try sending him down and hoping he doesn't get claimed, rather than your former 2nd round pick? Whether or not that's his value anymore, if he's valued at a 2nd round pick as it is, you should at least give him a better shot than one NHL game and 2 preseason games. What's the point? Why did you invest 5 years in him?
Yeah, this definitely becomes like a multiple things can be true at the same time type situation, where I don't think anyone, like me in particular, like I had a lot of tweets about it where I'm sure like someone read my opinions on it as, this guy thinks Gadjovich isn't like a top 6 or top 9 NHLer. It's like, no, I think at his peak, Jonah Gadjovich might be a decent enough 4th line contributor if he hits and he plays to the best he possibly can. And if he takes an extra step in his skating or whatever. That is like me saying, I think it's dumb to put him on waivers and lose him for nothing, is a critique of the overall process, which is pretty much why I got into hockey writing in the first place, was questioning why the process was so strange.
You didn't trust the process.
I did not trust the process. Someone should have a podcast titled "Don't Trust the Process."
That's a great idea.
But I started writing about the Comets because I was like, why are players like Lukas Jasek and Jonathan Dahlen and Petrus Palmu, Jonah Gadjovich, Colin, why are these guys getting scratched? So a guy like Brendan Woods or, Jagger Dirk or Reed Gardner, names that anyone listening to this has no idea who the fuck I'm talking about. You know why? It's because they're AHL or ECHL plugs who eventually moved on to, the German Elite League or whatever. They didn't actually matter in the grand scheme of the organization, but were kept around because they valued or prioritized depth or guys with experience. And Jonah Gadjovich was brought in, had a brutal rookie season, as did Cole Lind. So did Jonathan Dolan to a lesser extent, at least at 5v5. And now here we are 3 years later, and the same questions are arising. Jonah Gadjovich was deemed expendable by the organization because he couldn't penalty kill relative to the guys they recently signed over the summer. So the question remains, why then did the farm team or the Canucks never mandate that this guy who clearly projects as a bottom six forward, why was he never tried on the penalty kill in the AHL? They did it with Justin Bailey. They did it with Zach McEwen. They did it with Lucas Yashik. They did it with all these guys. Yeah, they did it with all these players, except for the guys who projected most to be guys you would want in the bottom six on the penalty kill. And so it all screams to me like missed opportunity and a question of team philosophy. Because as you know, Lachlan, how many times did we talk about Jake Virtanen last year?
Yep.
Where a guy who was given opportunity after opportunity to prove himself as an NHLer through and through in the top six on the first line with Pettersson, with JT Miller, just constantly did nothing, showed up to multiple training camps out of shape, did nothing with the opportunities given
to him. Did nothing to earn that trust or those opportunities, frankly.
Exactly. Didn't do any penalty killing, only did power play and got basically spoon-fed everything in this league because of his draft position. Now there's a 2017 second rounder, which, like, not a very high pick, but still a second rounder, which carries a lot of weight in this league. He struggles in his first year, skating picks up again, picks up even more this past offseason, where he comes into this preseason camp, is arguably one of the top 7 or top 9 best forwards in the Canucks camp. And for a team that prioritizes and says they reward work ethic and or give opportunity to guys that show they've done the work in the offseason, they give him 2 games and then send him packing.
One of those games he got a goal.
Both games he got a goal. He was a point per game in the preseason, and he totaled 16 minutes of ice time, 8 minutes per game. And he was playing with Matthew Highmore as his center in one of them, and in the second one, he was playing with an AHL signee and another NHL kid like Carson Vogt or whatever it was, like kids that arguably will have less of an NHL shot than he will. And this is a kid who clearly put in the work in the offseason. So what does it say to your organization when someone does put in the work and does earn themselves a shot, and you say no because we didn't ever train him how to do something?
Yeah.
Like, it's shooting yourself in the foot. It is the Hannibal Buress meme. It is the hot dog costume guy meme. It's just, how could Jonah Gadjovich not learn penalty killing? And is the Canucks holding the gun with the caption on it saying, we do not teach our young rookie prospects how to penalty kill if we don't want them to?
No.
It's baffling to me. And sitting here and critiquing the process and the long-term planning isn't me saying Gadjovich is going to be this bona fide NHLer who's going to make the Canucks rue the day. He could play 5 games next year and then bounce out to the KHL or whatever, or be an AHL lifer. It's about the process, which is something we've been critiquing since we started podcasting together, which is, what is the plan? What does this team believe in? Because constantly they go back on their own statements and philosophies. And this is another one. And unfortunately, it happened with just one more preseason game left in the schedule. Team looks like complete shit. And
it's rough. It's rough out here.
And some of the forwards they kept over Gadjovich haven't done anything with their opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's the most frustrating part. Some of them have
done quite well. Like Justin Dowling's done well. Philip DiGiuseppe has looked very good as a bottom 6 guy.
Yeah.
But like then there are guys like McEwen, like Highmore,
Pettersson,
Pettersson. Yeah, it's like these guys.
I'll explain. So Pettersson's gotten the points, but like honestly, he's just a passenger. He's playing in the top 9 or top 6 with like
He's
the
playing in a spot
best
that he
players
would
on the
not be
team.
playing with on the opening night roster if he
Yeah.
made it. He'd be playing with Dowling and DiGiuseppe, if anybody.
And when he was in the top 6 with like Besser and Miller as like a trio, or I think it was Hoglander and Horvat, whoever it was, whatever role
Hoglander
it
and
was,
Besser, I believe. Yeah, something like that.
he still didn't score at 5v5.
Right.
He only scored on the power play. Well, you know what's crazy? So tonight in the Oilers game, which the Canucks, of course, lost, Mike Smith almost scored a goal in the final waning seconds of the game. And if he did, I think he would have outscored like 7 of the Canucks forwards in preseason.
Something like that. I mean, the one thing Batan had going for him tonight was that he had shots. He had the second most shots on the team with he was tied with Podkolzin for 5 with 5. 6 went to Pettersson. Like that's not nothing, but like at the same time, it's not, if he's not going to be on your bottom 4, like he's also not a penalty killer. He's also not like your special teams guy. And certainly those positions won't be there for him. The positions that he is best for are not going to be there once the regular season actually gets underway. So kind of like, what are you doing there? Like, and he's certainly not, and I don't think he's getting claimed either. It's always about it's not so much about losing Gadjovich as a player as much as it is why did you lose him? Why was he the one that was left exposed over, say, these other guys?
And it's so soon too. Like what was the rush to losing him today? Like
would it have killed them to leave him as the 13th forward and like use him once on an injured, like in an injury replacement for somebody like a Highmore or Tyler Mott's obviously out right now. Like why couldn't he have played one other NHL game and or a preseason game and given a shot? Why did he have to get cut now?
Or like, I mean, starting rosters don't need to be in for like another week. Yep. So there was no like rush to throw him on waivers. You could have waited for the rush when there's like
everybody's
70 players on waivers and he might skate through. So to me, this is just them being like, they don't even want to entertain the idea of him maybe becoming something. Just get rid of him. Travis Green thing, right? Like that's Travis Green saying, I'm never going to trust him or care to give him an opportunity. I'd rather give Alex Chiasson sheltered 5v5 minutes and power play time over this kid, which is honestly like
alarming.
It's an indictment of Travis Green's coaching style. Like I think Travis Green can be a very good coach, but some of his player personnel decisions, like I do not understand. And this is one of them. And again, when I say this, it isn't because I think Gadjovich is going to be like an elite NHLer. It's just the principle.
It's the idea that like I don't know how you can decide how good a player is going to be in your system or or on this roster based on 2 games and 5 minutes in one NHL game. Like the Sharks could play him in only 2 NHL games this year and it would still be a bigger shot than the Canucks gave him.
Yeah,
and that's it. Like that's not a lot. 2 games is not a lot in an 82 game season. It's a very small percentage of the year. The Canucks could have very easily given that to him and then said, well, it's not working. It's not a fit. Oh, well, that happens. It's just the fact that they didn't really give him
bother
a fair
to care or try.
And but they have all the time in the world for other guys who arguably didn't necessarily warrant it. And it's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
That's tough to see. It's been like, man, especially after this Oilers game tonight too. You see like Chiasson doing nothing. You see McEwen just chasing, doing nothing.
I'm worried about Lockwood. Like I'm worried about like as a guy who I think honestly should be on this team right now, if he's going to get that shot, like if he's actually going to get that spot on the team, because he might not be a penalty killer or he might not be the fit there, which would be wild because he got good.
He got some pretty decent penalty kill time tonight, and I think his minutes were, I mean, they weren't bad. Like they were okay. They were high. Actually, holy shit, he had 16 minutes.
He's got a shot. He's got a shot to make it, but like he
logged the second most penalty kill time of
Nick Batan had the most ice time. That's wild
That's
to me. The second most was Pettersson at 1908. Nick Petan might make the team.
no, JT Miller was first with 2010.
Oh, am I missing some? Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm looking in the wrong spot. Okay, so
Okay.
sorry.
It's
Nick
still pretty
Petan
high
was
though.
second. Nick
But
Petan was
still,
second
I
by
mean,
30 seconds.
here's the thing. Like once they get to the actual NHL roster, like that first line is going to be Besser, Miller. Like so, that's why I don't understand the Patan look. Like
Petan's odd.
everyone in this league knows what Patan is, right?
Yeah.
He flamed out of the Jets organization because he could not fit in the bottom six. He fanned out of the Leafs organization because he was never going to get a look in the top nine. So it's going to be the same situation here. He's not going to fit in the bottom six. And
There's a very set 9 here. There's a very
Yeah.
set 9.
So it's kind of like, why aren't you trying other people in that role?
Maybe, I mean, it's very much a case
It's-
of, I don't know, maybe Travis Green. I guess maybe the thought is that Travis Green sees something in him that he feels he can bring to a fourth
Well-
line, because right now that fourth line is, in theory, it's Petan with probably with either Chiasson or like Dowling and Lockwood or DiGiuseppe. Like
Right.
there's a couple guys in there that in that mix still that could very much make it in. And
Yeah.
it's kind of weird that Petan is kind of the group that is the guy that's like kind of pulling away from the pack per se.
This is the benefit of reuniting with your coach from junior, because Nick Petan has that Portland Winterhawk connection. Maybe Travis Green is going to try and undo whatever he did with Sven Berchi and ruining that relationship, and Nick Petan's his second chance.
Maybe.
You never know. But on the note of Zach McEwen, so obviously at the end of the game, he got in that scripted fight with Zach Cashin, ended up ending up as bad as a scripted fight could possibly go in the NHL. I have a theory as to why he's getting such a long look, despite the fact he's looked pretty much just terrible in this preseason, his second preseason in a row. So last season, there was a lot of talk about how players like JT Miller, Bo Horvat, like a lot of these guys came out after and were like, we don't understand the team's direction. We don't understand some of the roster decisions, but it's out of our control, like whatever. But you heard it a lot in The Athletic, the Vancast. Basically, just a lot of guys went to management after the end of last season and said, you know, you got to sign Tanner Pearson. He's beloved. We need him in the locker room, etc. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking Zach McEwen is here for that same kind of reason, because Zach McEwen is very good friends with Thatcher Demko. They were roomies in Utica. He's really tight with Pettersson and Hughes and Besser. Like they're part of that like kind of young clique. And so I'm wondering if from a roster construction standpoint, the team is looking at McEwen like, if we ditch a guy that is beloved in the locker room again, are we going to fuck up team chemistry? Hence why a player like Jonah Gadjovich is expendable, because they don't want a repeat of last season by ruining the internal chemistry. Just a theory.
That
It's
is a
complete
that's
nonsense, but it's just the only thing I can go off of.
Yeah, it's the only thing you can go. Yeah, like it's definitely possible. Just to give you guys a concept of what Zach McEwen's game was like tonight, and you know, time on ice doesn't tell you everything, but in 9 minutes and 36 seconds of ice time, Zach McEwen turned that into 9 penalty minutes and no shots on goal. Like
A couple hits.
that's
block.
a pretty clear example of he had 36 seconds of not being a penalty liability. Like,
and that 9 minutes too isn't even 9 minutes if you think about it, because 2 minutes of that 9:36 was spent on the power play. So that's only 7:36 of 5-on-5, and then minus a minute of time spent on the PK. So he played 6.5 minutes at 5v5. That is maybe 10 or 15 seconds more than Carson Fogt played. And
Carson
he
Fogt
played
played
6:19 at 5v5. So what does that tell you? It's just a guy that's basically there for like morale.
Yeah. I would say this. Like, I'll say this. I would be very surprised if the the player that Canucks like top players, like the core group, was gonna stick their neck out for on this sort of thing, it would be Zach McEwen. Like, that's kind of like, I get that he's like friends with a good amount of the group and everything, but I'd be like really surprised if like really that's the line you're drawing the sand, where where you're drawing the line in the sand here is on
Sure.
on McEwen.
Realistically,
like, that's a
though,
weird one. That'd be a
it,
weird one.
it would be weird, but I could definitely see like, because they always have their season end interviews and they ask all the players, like, what do you think of, this player, and whatever. If they have 5 of their core, like the guys that are now signed long term, Demko, Pettersson, Hughes, Besser, all these guys are on their long term deals, except for Besser, who will need a new contract. But the core group, if all of them are saying, I love being at the rink with Zach, like he's got such a great attitude, he works hard, he's come up from like, he's got an incredible journey in hockey, and I just love playing with him. I'm sure that would carry a lot of weight, even if like they don't necessarily have to say like don't ever trade this guy. But if they hear like some of the most important members of their team going to bat for him, it could carry quite a bit of weight. Just an idea.
It could. It totally could. It's just going to be, it would be interesting to see if that conversation changes around the team, like say from like would have changed, say around exit interviews to now when they've added Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Connor Garland, Jason Dickinson, Vasily Podkolzin. Like they've added all these other guys that you could argue are probably going to be just as important for like morale or more, arguably more important for morale as McEwen. So it'll be interesting if that is like kind of where things went. It would be interesting to see how quickly that could say that like line of thinking could say come out of like go out the window.
Yeah. All right. I guess that's enough sad and miserable talk about the Canucks team.
Sort of, at least from the Canucks standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's been a rough day for hockey news around here of late.
We won't hit this one too hard, but I forgot. Yoel Levy has not been dressed in the last 2 preseason games for the Canucks. Quick thoughts from you.
I mean, he's going. I think he's going to Abbotsford. I don't see any way around that unless he magically learns how to play the right side. They're the right side of the ice.
Do you think he would get claimed? Has the Jonah Gadjovich claim made you reconsider whether or not he would get claimed? Yoel Levy, that is, if thrown on waivers right now without like a big group around him.
With Oli Yoel Levy, it's I think a different story in the sense of like, again, this is the case of like guys who you talk about guys who've been given a lot of chances. Oli Yoel Levy has been given a lot of chances and it hasn't worked out. So if they lost him on waivers, like if they lost Yoel Levy on waivers, I'd be a lot less like, oh, you lost him for nothing. I'd be like, well, you tried. It didn't work. It wasn't a good fit. That happens. Like that's, I think it's, I honestly think the odds of him passing through are pretty good of him getting to Abbotsford and not without a claim. But even if he did, in his case, there's enough of an actual NHL sample size from him that I kind of know what I'm getting, what we've gotten into here. And I know that it's not going to really work necessarily, for this team, at least for the future. I don't know. If you have a different opinion on that?
No, I'm laughing because I'm looking at the Canucks expansion protection list that they gave to Seattle. Yoel Levy's on it, and you know who else is on it? Nate Schmidt.
Oh, geez. They did get recouped value for Nate Schmidt.
Yeah, they did. It's just very funny.
Yeah, it is very funny
to protect 2 guys that might legitimately not be on your roster like 4 months later.
They also exposed Madison Bowie, who's arguably looked better than Oli Yoel Levy in the preseason.
Yeah,
that tells you something too.
Like, like the third slot right side defenseman is just completely up in the air.
It's a weirdly like intense battle.
You could arguably give it to any one of the 3 guys competing. You could give it to Shen, Bowie, Burrows, or even Brad Hunt if he plays on his offside. Like all 4 of them are. I would say Hunt would be the number 1 choice, but we know Travis Green
does not like
hates
playing them on
doing
the
that.
opposite sides. Yes.
So if you went with just the right shot defenseman like Burrows, Bowie, or Shen, like I feel like Shen's at the bottom of the list at this point. I arguably
Yeah.
think it's like Burrows and Bowie's spot to win.
Yeah,
Which
I think Shen would have played today if he was in the mix a little bit closer. I think he's and it's weird because you know what, Kyle Burrows has played a lot in this preseason. Like he's looked okay. Like he hasn't looked amazing by any stretch, but he also hasn't like completely looked like I am very out of my element here. He looks okay. Like he's done all right in a couple pairings here with NHL guys.
Yeah, kind of like how Rathbone's been getting like a really long look on the left side. Like they're giving Burrows a huge look on the right side. I think he's played the most games on the right side of like Bowie and Shen. So they must be thinking like he might be something for them as an option.
Yeah,
maybe.
And I will say with Rathbone, it's very funny. It's been very funny seeing them play and be like, wow, they're taking a long look at Rathbone. And I'm like, and it's in one of those ways where it's like, well, he's going to make it though. So who cares? Like, ha, ha, ha. And then in the more games, it's like, okay, joke's over. He's on the team, right? Like you're kind of
guys?
like, you're right. You're not actually going to send him down to Abbotsford, are you? Like, no. And then maybe they do. And it's just going to be all hell's gonna break loose.
Rathbone had like an important game tonight. He played almost 3 minutes on the PK,
and
which is like a big testament because if they can get, oh my god, I almost made like a really bad Phantom Menace behind the scenes joke. Because if they can get Jack Rathbone working because he's a better defenseman than they've had on the third pair left side in a while, you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Where they're like, if we can get Jar Jar Binks working because he's a funnier character we've had.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about? It's
okay,
anyway. I'll send it to
I
you.
don't, but I'm interested. Now this is Star Wars talk is usually my thing. I'm surprised I don't know this.
We've depressed the audience enough with talk about a miserable Canucks team that's looked just as bad as they were last year.
Misa Jack Rathbone, you so bad doo-doo this time.
Oh no.
Oh no. And that's the show, everybody. Sorry.
That's the show, everybody. Why don't we get into some NHL tidbits and then we'll close out here because some kind of funny stuff, some interesting stuff, some depressing stuff. Depressing stuff first. Carey Price is entering the NHLPA assistance program. We've obviously talked a lot about Carey Price because of the Stanley Cup playoffs. BC boy, apparently. I remember in our show we were talking about how I could not believe that Carey Price was actually born in BC because he's so familiar, iconic,
synonymous with Quebec.
Just a Montrealer that you would just assume he was born there or something. He was born in the Bell Center.
Yeah, because so many Montreal goalies are like Quebec guys. Like it's been like that long history of like, you know, you go back with like Jacques Plante, Jose Theodore, like there's a whole Patrick Waugh, obviously. Like there's a whole list of them there, and then and it's so rare that like any of them like every now and then you get the rare Ken Dryden or something who's from Ontario or like, and then Carey Price from BC. Like you don't like very much. They've been very proud of like their history of Quebec-born goaltenders. So it kind of feels like every goalie that comes from there is through that system there. So
that probably plays into it too. But the CreaseCast obviously began as a goalie-centric podcast.
Yeah,
we send our love to the Carey Price family. His wife had a very touching Instagram post about how Carey was doing what's best for her and their kids. Hopefully he's okay. Like there was a lot of like rumors before the season that he might be missing the season for injury related reasons. I don't think anyone, like, this is the twist nobody saw coming, and it's a twist nobody really wanted to hear because that's awful. Carey Price is a very good dude, and
I believe it was Mike McKenna, former Canuck goalie, Canuck legend on Twitter, talking about how, it might have been him, might have been someone else, or somebody basically was talking about how, you know, back in the day, like not that long ago, NHL players would not reach out for help. They would not
Yeah.
go like, and again, we don't know what it is, and we're not going to speculate on what it is.
Mhm.
But like NHL players would not seek help, especially not during the season. Like if they did, it would be in the off season, very quietly, and no one would know. So
Yeah.
for an NHL player, especially a player of the caliber of Carey Price, and with the aura and like the star history of Carey Price,
Yeah.
for him
Someone
to
with
go
his
out and
presence to do this is like
yes,
very important for like the mental health community and just
yeah,
driving, not that like it's a mental health issue, but just like driving
yeah,
like
driving forward that it's
how it's
okay
okay to ask for help.
for help. Yes, especially in hockey, which is a sport very much that's been built on this culture of, rah, like if you're doing okay, if you're playing hockey, you should be, and you're soft if you're not in full like doing at your best, right? If you
Yeah.
ask for help, you're soft kind of thing. And so
Yeah.
to see that quickly getting pushed out the door
Yeah.
is good, and it's important for the growth of the sport that you see players not be afraid to ask for help when they need it. So, yeah, we wish Carey Price all the best. Hopefully he's doing okay. And I'm sure he's obviously good. It's good. He's doing what's best for him. He's doing what's best for his family. And that comes before any hockey game.
On the note of also furthering the game and changing it for progressive reasons, Robin Lehner had his meeting with the NHL and the NHLPA. I guess he's not disclosing what happened publicly anymore on Twitter, but behind closed doors, I'm assuming they are now addressing the severity and seriousness of sleep deprivation in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's kind
I
of
mean,
it's kind of interesting because wasn't it like, I don't know how many years ago it was, or maybe it was like a couple days ago, who knows? Like Jonathan Taves or Corey Perry or some like really famous like Team Canada player was like, we need to overhaul flights and travel.
Well, that was the
And
Canucks. The Canucks did that. Like they were a big part of that. The Mike Gillis era Canucks did a lot of heavy lifting on like sleep science. Like that was
Mhm.
a big thing. If you've ever read the book, I know you have. For any listeners who've read the book by Bruce Dobigan, Ice Storm, about Mike Gillis's era with the Canucks, talking about like the sciences that they did, where they specifically started changing when they flew out for games,
Yeah.
and doing stuff like that, and when players were sleeping to make sure that they were getting like a better rest and they were more well equipped to handle games, and it would
Mhm.
supposedly help them stay healthier for longer, especially for a team like the Canucks that travels more than any other team in the NHL each
Yeah.
season. And yeah, you're right. I think very recently somebody talked about like, especially like in the bubble year, with teams only traveling to like 6 or 7 cities, usually well within their time zone. Like
Yeah.
players started talking about how, hey, we like this whole going to games, only going and playing like 2 games in one city before moving on to the next thing. And the NHL, I think, incorporated that a little bit into their schedule this year, where like you're noticing like the home stands and the road trips are all kind of more like together. Like they very
Mhm.
much tried to stitch all of them together to make it so that teams are flying less and
Yeah.
they're spending longer time periods at home, rather than doing we're going to fly out to Calgary
Yeah.
today, come back, play a game in
Yeah. Enjoy
Vancouver, then
enjoy
fly out again to
playing on
Chicago.
enjoy playing on 1.5 hours sleep and
Yeah.
then get used to a flight right after
Yeah.
your game's over.
I mean, hey, we just saw, I don't know if we've talked about this on the show, but Jonathan Drouin just returned from a whole serious issue of
Yeah.
having major insomnia problems, and
Mhm.
I believe some other health concerns as well. And
Yeah,
that's why he wasn't with
what was it?
insomnia.
Insomnia and anxiety
Yeah.
relating to lack of sleep because of like the rigors and demands of the
Yeah.
NHL schedule.
He missed the entire Canadians Cup run because of
Yeah.
that. And it's really great to see him back, but you're hoping
Mhm.
that that means that the NHL like saw the signs of the writing on the wall, and is trying to make a more conscious effort of, hey, we can't be flying guys out at this kind of fever pitch,
Did, and then did you see that Duran apparently had he caught COVID, and so now he's gonna miss like the next 2 weeks or
Oh
something like that?
jeez.
Like,
What a tough
what
break.
a
Jeez.
horrible break. And man, I hate that Drouin and Price are on the Canadians, because this is where you would normally say, like, man, that organization can't catch a break, huh?
Yeah.
But it's like, fuck
Shea
the
Weber.
Canadians.
Yeah, and also
You
Shea
know?
Weber in there too. He's also not I don't think he's playing at all this season. He is also dealing
Yeah.
with some issues. So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
But
it's
after
one
the
of those
Mayu
cases.
pick, you're like, ugh.
It really leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Like,
Yeah.
I think this is very much a case of like, you feel this is all about the players. You feel
Yeah, for
for
sure.
the players and the players exclusively and their teammates who they consider friends,
Yeah.
like that's who you feel for in this scenario. You don't feel for, the management necessarily. You feel for the people, like the players involved in hoping that they come back healthy and that they come back when they're ready to come back more than anything else.
Well, I guess on the note of players that might not be coming back,
Oh boy.
the Jack Eichel update.
I guess it's supposed to be like going for it. Like there's supposed to be some push for it. I guess the Sabres like sent his medical file to teams to kind of
To Steve Simmons.
just Steve Simmons to kind of move the situation along and kind of at least hopefully bring it to a conclusion. Because right now, like Jesus, this is awful.
What a
like what's going
wreck.
on? Like this is clearly a case of a team like that is honestly lost its mind. Like the Sabres, the fact that the Sabres have not moved him and are also not letting him get his damn surgery is asinine. It's very much it seems personal at this point.
Yeah.
Like it really just seems like this is a personal.
Like it's very like stripping him. Like when they stripped him of the captaincy, right? It was like, okay, was that really necessary?
What a stupid thing to do. Like it's just you feel like literally, and this is another case where it's like you don't feel bad for the team and like the management or ownership at all in this case. Who you feel for is Jack Eichel, because God, he needs his surgery. Let him get his damn surgery. You feel for the players who are kind of getting caught in the loop in the middle of this here. And then you feel for the fans in Buffalo who have literally sat and watched just the worst hockey for the last decade. And now their like pathetic management team can't move a player who should have an insanely high asset value if they, again, let him get a fucking surgery. Like that's it. That's all they need to do. It's really sad. It's just awful.
Was it them? There was like a really funny media person tweet. I don't know if it was them or not, but it was like the goaltending battle is over. Your starter and backup for this year will be Craig Anderson and Dustin Tokarski, and you're like, and then like people are like, oh,
because Aaron Dell, they signed their big ticket was Aaron Dell. In case you didn't remember, that was their big goalie signing was Aaron Dell.
I feel like they waived Aaron Dell. I'm pretty sure
they did. They waived him today, so he is going. I knew that Craig Anderson was one of them, and honestly, good for Craig Anderson. He's in his 40s and doing like good for him. He's a very solid like backup goaltender at this point in his career. So like good for him.
Yeah.
But Dustin Tokarski,
poor Buffalo.
I did not realize until this week. If you guys remember, or maybe this was last week actually. Last week when Cody came over to record one of our episodes, it was also happened to be the night of I believe NHL doing like the NHL on TNT doing its preview preseason games.
Yeah, that's right.
And and they show a cut of like Flyers going to the net, puck in front. Oh, and the Bruins goalie stops it. It's like, oh, and that's a save by Linus Ullmark. And I'm like, wait, what? The Sabres lost Linus Ullmark. He was their one good goalie. He was the one good goalie they had, and they lost him. Like, geez, what a rough go.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking someone else. I was trying like, wasn't Ullmark the one that got traded, and then like some executive was quoted being like, Linus Ullmark will never be an NHL goaltender. He sucks.
I don't know. That's a great
he got traded to Colorado or something, and then he went to Colorado, played in like 3 games, and had like a 900 save percentage, and made the executive look like an idiot.
I can't remember. I don't think that was Ullmark. I think that might have been Pavel Francouz. Maybe Pavel Francouz, who's now injured. God, we didn't even like the Avalanche. Speaking of goaltending problems, it's been a weird injury. It's going to be it's a bad episode for goalies. Next week, we'll try and keep things lighter for goaltenders. Jeez, they're in a rough spot.
It's tough to keep things light. So I'm going to blaze through this next news item so we get into the fun. We're going to end on a funny note, folks. Don't worry. Bear with us. last bit of bad news. We're going to glaze over it quickly. Evander Kane investigated by the league for providing the San Jose Sharks with a fake vaccination card. So he's having a banger of an offseason.
It's just
This
talk
is why they
about
got
players
Gadjovich.
who've gotten so many chances and just keep proving that's a mistake.
Yeah.
Jeez. Like, and I don't even know what to do with that at this point. Like,
Yeah.
it's investigation,
Next.
like the third investigation in the last month for Evander Kane.
It's like his fifth ongoing investigation in the past 3 months. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just a bummer.
All right, so then
Olympic stuff.
Lastly,
Get the fun stuff.
the Olympic stuff, the fun stuff. The teams were required, or Olympic teams were required to submit 3 players from all the major nations. Canada chose McDavid, Crosby, and Alex Pietrangelo.
Which is kind of odd, right? Like
Pietrangelo's a bit odd, but I mean,
so here's the thing. I guess this is what I've heard essentially is that it's not it's not that these guys are necessarily guaranteed on the team. Well, the idea is that yes, they are. Yes, they are. It's for 2 reasons. One, I guess there's I believe some sort of drug testing thing involved with it where they need to put together a whole list of 50 players or something in the next little while who are eligible to make the team, that have to go through all of these protocols for the Olympics and everything this time around or what have you. And then also so they can say start marketing around those players before the Olympics, because it's not that far away from now already.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the idea of why everyone's naming 3 players already. The idea is that, you name the 3 guys who you think are almost guaranteed to make the team. And Pietrangelo is a little odd in terms of I mean, if you wanted to go for star power, I guess you go with I would go with obviously McKinnon or Nathan McKinnon instead or something. But I guess maybe they had to name a defenseman. That's my thought process, is I guess they had to name a defenseman, and that's fine.
Yeah, I was trying to look at the 3 names, and I was like, did every team have to do 2 forwards and a defenseman, or 1 defenseman, 1 goalie, 1 forward? But no, it just seems to be whatever 3 first came to mind, I guess.
It's Doug Armstrong, former Blues GM. So that I think feeds very well into why Pietrangelo's there.
Yes, I have a feeling the guy who won a cup because of Alex Pietrangelo might have a bias in wanting him on his team. Maybe Roberto Luongo can shore up that defense for Team Canada. It's not the worst. Yeah. It's not the worst pick in the world, but it's just
no, God no. He would probably make he would make the team. That's a given. Frankly,
but when it's when you think of your top 3 Canadian players, he's not.
It's just kind of odd, and it's odd in the sense of is there not a it's one of those. It's not so much that it's a crazy off the board. It's one of those, am I forgetting someone pick? It's one of those did I miss it? Isn't there one defenseman better that I can't think of right now?
Yeah, it's one of those picks that makes you forget every single player in the league, and you're that can't be all there is.
I mean, honestly, I'm thinking back to the last time NHLers were played in an international tournament. That would have been the World Cup in 2016. Thinking back to it, I'm pretty sure their top defense was Brent Burns, who's not the same player he was at that point, and
Shea Weber.
Shea Weber. Yeah, that would have been it. 2 guys who are definitely not here anymore. Maybe Canada's just kind of moving in a different direction with the defense now, because thinking back to it, I guess Pietrangelo is the best one they've got right now. That makes and I guess that makes sense, because again, that's 6 years ago. That was a long time. It doesn't feel like it ago. But
I mean, the Pietrangelo pick isn't that bad, because Team USA they picked Seth Jones, and then Patrick Kane and Austin Matthews. Whatever. I get it.
It's very much a
it's a Stan Bowman choice, who should not be running this fucking team anyway, given the extent of allegations against his organization that he was in charge of.
We won't get into it again because it's already been a bummer of an episode, but maybe look at the history of all 3 of those players in terms of certain things they've either done or said. It is
liked on Instagram,
wild.
Or existing charges. It's just a team of terrible people. Which
ones have anti-vax parents? Who's to say? To say?
Just awful. Sweden's team Sweden's team was interesting because it was like the same thing as like Team Canada. I read Victor Hedman, Gabe Landeskog, and Mika Zibanejad, and I was like, were Landeskog and Zibanejad really the first two you would like come to mind first?
Yeah. Again, we might have to do literally like a side by side between this and like the 2016 team because like again,
Yeah.
last time the Sedins were available, obviously they were at that tournament. Louis Eriksson was much better at that time. Although actually, hey, Louis Eriksson's on a
With
resurgence.
his
He has 3 goals.
preseason, he's definitely making the team. Are you kidding?
Antoine Roussel had a goal tonight too. Did you see that?
Oh no, I didn't. Good for him.
He did. Antoine Roussel had a goal. Juicy perfect.
What if this season is just like the ex Canucks revenge tour? And so like Dahlin, Gadjovich, Roussel, Eriksson, they all just have unbelievable Gaudette. They all have like unbelievable seasons.
Yeah, they all just come back to haunt
Schmidt.
them. Like that all-star team. That all-star team would be wild.
Great.
Markstrom, obviously, Toffoli, like Stetcher. The list goes on. I mean, here's the thing. We could do that for every player. Like every team has history, but like it's just so weird. Like because some of the ways that they've like ended on terms with those players is just
the
wild.
terms that they ended on all of these players are so shrouded in
and to see them like go on and immediately be good in other places is just like like it's just what did you do there? What you do for the last?
How'd this get ruined?
Where did this come from? Like and Sweden's in that spot too. What's also I guess kind of weird is maybe it's not that weird, but Elias Petterson, is he not there yet? I guess not. Like
I guess he's not like the first like. You look at
I
these
see why
is this the first?
there.
But this must be like the first ballot or something kind of thing. Like
it's very much that. It's very much this is a guaranteed luck to make the team or as close to one as you can humanly get right now. 5 months out. Like it is, but I am kind of like I guess Pettersson's still got a ways to go. Like all these guys have obviously been in the league much longer, but I am kind of like there's not really like a guy where I'm like, oh, he is a generational talent. It's all a lot of guys who are very good, just not say like maybe elite top of their class, except for Hedman. Hedman is obviously in a class of his own. Like he's a great defenseman. Yeah.
Czech Republic, no questions. It's like 3 stars of their nation. No, like that's the one trio where I'm like, I get it.
Yep. Everything checks out there.
And Finland too, for that matter. Like Aho, Barkov, Rantanen, like they picked like young stars too. Like they didn't pick like, like Hedman, obviously, like he's on the older side, Landeskog, Zibanejad, like vets that are proven winners. But Finland, they're just like, nope, we're going young and fucking awesome.
I feel
Aho,
like
Barkov, Rantanen, like that's a great trio.
I feel like Finland always like recently has done a very good job at like bringing in the younger guys and not going necessarily for like the old vets. And maybe that's partially just due to the fact that like some of their most legendary players were Teemu Solani and Saku Koivu, guys who aged out. So they kind of had to go through the rebuilding process, I guess, with that group. Because I think the Finns are just trending younger a little bit at this current today's hockey NHL now.
Because there was that period where it was kind of like everyone on their team was like 37 or older. And like then
that last Sochi team was old group.
Like Solani was 42 at the time.
Yep, Solani was old. I think Koivu was still on that team. Like maybe had just retired recently. I think Sammy Salo was on the team. Maybe there's they've had to do a lot of like bring in a lot of younger guys. And I mean I think and that's not even factoring in say like obviously Patrick Laine is obviously probably in that conversation. The goaltending side of things is usually pretty solid. Although now that I think about it, the last time Finland sent 2 goals, like the last Finland tandem was Pekka Rinne, who's retired, and Rask, who's injured. So that'll be interesting. I don't know who their goalies are right now.
Probably you say Saros, maybe still
Saros
Rask if he gets on the
Saros
team.
Finish? I didn't. I guess so. I guess. And then I guess that's probably it. That's probably he might be the guy right now.
Yeah. So
no Russia. Interestingly, didn't see.
That was a bit weird. Well,
maybe that's because they're still technically suspended. I think by the Olympics.
They're banned for
like the Olympic
10 years or whatever. So
something
they
nuts. They really paid. They really paid for that for 2014. This is going back to 2014. Like they really paid for it, and they've kept not learning the same mistakes over and over again.
Just clearly still doing the same thing and getting away with it.
It's going to be very weird when I have to watch. Like it was one thing watching the 1 year that there were no NHLers seeing Olympic athletes from Russia, because it's like frankly, somehow this is fitting. Like somehow this is exactly fitting. But then now it's going to be like Alex Ovechkin playing under the Olympic athletes from Russia.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, it's going to be an odd mix of guys with Sergei Bobrovsky.
But you know us guys, we're all about the odd mix of guys. That's why we added one more to our roster with Jacob New. He's not with us, but if you want to see more of Jacob, you want to see more of this odd mix-up of guys, you got Cody Sievertson. You can follow me at Cody Sievertson on Twitter. My website, ahlnucksharvest.com. Also on Instagram under that same handle. Lachlan, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lock in the Crease. You can also find me on my website, lockthecrease.com, where I post articles from time to time, and on Locked On Canucks, which I do with Nick Body Monday to Friday.
Hell yeah. You can always find our stuff on every podcast platform. Recommend it to all your friends. Give us 5 stars. Leave us some reviews. We also have our YouTube channel. That's YouTube CreaseCast. Every single podcast episode uploaded in YouTube format. You can see my gross shoulder scar that I got the other day. I stood up into a block of wood and peeled off like 8 layers of skin.
Oh God.
Yeah. So that was really fun.
What a way to end. What a visual to end on here.
Picture that, children. Picture the gushing blood. It was very Squid Game, frankly.
God, oh my God, the Squid Game references that I do not understand as someone who has not watched it.
Watch it.
You can, if you want less gross injury talk, or more, depending on who's hosting. Go to our Patreon for $5 a month. You get bonus podcasts. We're getting back into the swing of things. Like I said, there was going to be a new Off the Post today until our broadcast setup crashed on us. But we're going to work on getting a new one out, redoing it essentially tomorrow or Saturday, and getting that out to you before, say, Canadian Thanksgiving. So go check out that as well. Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. This is a fun episode to record, and we will catch you on the flippity. Bye. Sorry.